Commander Park Minho stood in the control room of the big spaceship, looking down at the planet below. Red lights were flashing everywhere, and loud warning sounds filled the air. The evacuation had been going on for 6 hours now. Thousands of people were being moved from the planet to safety. "Sir, we have moved 48,000 people so far," said Lieutenant Kim Sora from her computer station. "But there are still 2,000 people left in the far villages." Minho's face became hard. Those far villages had the Rilani people living there. The Rilani were peaceful aliens who had run away from their dying home planet. Now they were in danger again. There were 15,000 of them, and they had no good weapons to protect themselves. The Vex were coming. Everyone knew about the Vex. They were terrible creatures that ate everything in their path. They moved like a giant swarm of hungry insects, but much worse. Nothing could stop them once they started moving toward a planet. "Ask the big boss if we can stay longer," Minho told his team. "We need 12 more hours to save the Rilani people." Kim Sora typed the message quickly. They all waited. The answer came back fast from Fleet Admiral. "No. You must leave now. Some losses are okay. Get out immediately." Minho stared at the screen showing the Rilani villages. The aliens there were tall and thin, with blue skin. They were gentle people who never fought anyone. Their children played in the streets, not knowing that death was coming for them in 3 days. His 12 soldiers watched him quietly. They knew their commander was thinking hard about something important. These were good soldiers who had fought beside Minho for years. Sergeant Li Juan was his explosives expert. Corporal Han Deho was the best computer person he had ever known. They all trusted him completely. "Kim Sora, send a message to everyone," Minho said slowly. "Tell them our engines are broken, and we cannot leave, sir." Sora looked confused. Minho turned to Sergeant Li. "Break our jump engines. Make it look like an accident." Li Guan understood immediately. "Yes, sir." She ran toward the engine room. "Commander," said Corporal Park Sun-ho, "if we stay here, we will die when the Vex come." "Maybe," Minho said. "But if we leave, 15,000 innocent people will definitely die. I cannot live with that." The other soldiers looked at each other. They were scared, but they were also proud of their commander. This was why they followed him. He never left anyone behind. "Sir, what about the other crew members?" asked Private Choi Mina. "The ship has 200 people on it." "Send them away on the small emergency ships," Minho ordered. "Only fighting soldiers stay. Anyone who wants to leave can go. I will not force anyone to die with me." But none of his 12 soldiers moved toward the exit doors. They had made their choice too. Kim Sora started typing orders into her computer. "Emergency evacuation for all non-fighting crew," she announced over the ship's speaker system. "Report to emergency ship stations immediately." Soon, people were running through the hallways. Some looked scared. Others looked confused. But they all knew that their commander was doing something very brave and very dangerous. Dr. Yang Jisoo, the ship's doctor, came to the control room. "Commander, you are making a mistake. You cannot save those aliens. The Vex will kill everyone." "Doctor?" "Get on an emergency ship," Minho said kindly. "Take your medical supplies with you?" "I am staying too," Dr. Yang said firmly. "If you are going to try to save lives, you will need a doctor." Minho smiled for the first time that day. "Thank you, doctor." Outside the big windows, they could see the emergency ships leaving. Small lights moved away from their ship toward the bigger fleet that was already far from the planet. Soon, only 13 humans would be left on the entire planet. "Sergeant Lee, did you break the engines good?" Minho asked when she came back. "Yes, sir. It will take at least a week to fix them, and we do not have the right parts anyway." "Perfect." Minho looked at his small team. "Everyone understand what we are doing? We're going to try to help the Rilani people escape. We probably will not survive. Anyone who wants to change their mind can take the last emergency ship." "Moved. Good. Then let us go down to the planet and see what we can do." Minho walked toward the transport ship. "We have 3 days before the Vex arrive. Let us make them count." As their small ship flew down toward the planet's surface, Kim Sora asked Commander, "Do you really think we can save them?" Minho looked out at the blue aliens working in their peaceful villages below. "I do not know, Sora, but I know we have to try." That is what makes us human. The transport ship landed near the biggest R'Lani village. The aliens came out to look at them with curious large eyes. They did not know yet that these strange humans had just chosen to die for them. The empty mining colony felt strange and quiet. All the human workers had left in a hurry, leaving behind their tools and machines. Minho and his 12 soldiers walked through the empty streets, carrying their weapons and supplies. The only sounds were their footsteps and the wind blowing through the abandoned buildings. "Set up the big guns on the hills around the colony," Minho told his team. "Handeho, go to the main computer room and try to fix the defense shields. Li Guan, see what weapons you can make from the mining equipment." The soldiers spread out to do their jobs. They all knew they were preparing for a battle they could not win, but they worked hard anyway. That was what good soldiers did. The R'Lani people came slowly toward the colony. They moved in a careful way, like they were afraid but also curious. Elder Thyra walked in front of the group. She was tall, like all R'Lani, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow a little in the sunlight. Her large, dark eyes looked sad but wise. "Why do you stay, human commander?" Elder Thyra asked. Her voice sounded like music, soft and beautiful. "Your people have left this place. We understand why they fear what is coming." Minho stopped working on a plasma cannon and looked at her. "We do not leave people behind when they cannot protect themselves. That is not our way." Elder Thyra tilted her head, thinking about his words. "But you will die if you stay. The Vex destroy everything. We have heard the stories from other worlds." "Maybe we will die," Minho said, going back to his work on the weapon. "But maybe we can help you escape first. 15,000 lives are worth trying to save." More R'Lani people gathered around to watch the humans work they'd never seen weapons like these before. R'Lani were peaceful people who had never fought wars. They found their food in the ground and made beautiful art with crystals. Fighting was not something they understood. Corporal Handeho came running from the computer building. "Commander, the defense shields are very old and weak. I can make them a little stronger, but not much. We need more power." "Use power from the mining machines," Minho said. "Take whatever you need, Sergeant Lee." Guan was having fun in the mining area. She had found huge machines that crushed rocks and cut through metal. "Sir, look at this," she called out. "I can turn these rock crushers into big cannons, and these cutting lasers can become defense guns." "Good work, Lee. Make as many as you can." But even as his soldiers worked hard, Minho knew it would not be enough. The Vex traveled in groups of millions. They were like a living storm that ate planets. 13 humans and some makeshift weapons could not stop something like that. Elder Thyra watched him for a long time. Then she said something that surprised him. "Human commander, teach us to fight." Minho stopped working and stared at her. "What did you say?" "Teach my people to fight." "I know it is not our way. We have always been peaceful. But our children deserve to live."
"Fighting is the only way to save them. Then we will learn."
Other R'Lani people heard her words. Some looked shocked. Fighting went against everything they believed in. But others nodded their heads. They understood that sometimes you had to change to survive. "Are you sure?" Minho asked. "Once you learn to fight, you can never go back to being completely peaceful." "The Vex have already taken our peace away," Elder Thyra said. "Better to fight and live than to be peaceful and die." Minho called his soldiers together. New plan. "We are going to teach the R'Lani basic fighting skills. Start with the simple things. How to hold weapons. How to hide. How to run when you need to." Private Choi Mina worked with a group of young R'Lani adults. Their long blue fingers had trouble holding human guns, but they were very smart and learned quickly. "Point and shoot," she told them. "Do not think too much. Just point and shoot, Corporal." Park Sun-ho taught them how to hide behind rocks and buildings. The Vex have good eyes, but they look for movement first. Stay still until you have to move. Dr. Yang Jusu showed them how to take care of wounded people. Press hard on bleeding cuts. Move injured people away from fighting. Keep them safe. Elder Thyra learned faster than anyone. She picked up a plasma rifle and held it like she had been using weapons her whole life. "This feels heavy, but I can manage it," she said. As the sun went down on their first day, Minho stood on a hill looking at the horizon. Somewhere out there, the Vex were coming closer. In the colony below, R'Lani people were practicing with weapons. For the first time in their history, Kim Sora came to stand beside him. "Sir, the long-distance sensors show the Vex will be here in 2 days, not 3. They are moving faster than we thought." Minho nodded. "Then we work all night. Sleep until we are ready." In the distance, he could see lights in the R'Lani villages. Parents were telling their children that tomorrow they would learn to fight. It was the end of their peaceful way of life, but maybe it was the beginning of their survival. The real test was coming soon. The morning sky turned black with flying creatures. They moved like a giant cloud of death, blocking out the sun. On the ground, a dark wave rolled across the hills toward the colony. The Vex had arrived, and there were more of them than anyone had imagined. Minho stood at his command post, watching through binoculars. The creatures looked like a mix of metal and living flesh. Some crawled on 6 legs like giant spiders. Others flew with wings that buzzed like angry insects. All of them had sharp teeth and claws that could cut through steel. "All soldiers, get ready," Minho shouted into his radio. "Remember the plan? Make every shot count. Do not waste ammunition." R'Lani people were hiding in the underground bunkers that the miners had built, but some of the younger ones stood with the humans, holding weapons with shaking hands. Elder Thyra was beside Minho, her blue face determined but scared. "I can feel them coming," she whispered. "They are angry and hungry, so very hungry." First wave hit the outer defenses. Li Guan's makeshift cannons opened fire, sending explosive shells into the massive creatures. The mining lasers cut bright lines through the dark swarm. For a moment, it looked like the defenses might hold, but the Vex learned quickly. After the first few minutes, they began moving differently. They spread out so the cannons could not hit many at once. They found the blind spots in the laser defense system. "They are adapting," Ondeho shouted from his computer station. "The same weapons do not work on them twice." Corporal Park Soon-ho was the first to fall. He was defending the east wall when a group of flying Vex came down from above. His rifle fired steadily until the ammunition ran out. Then the creatures were on him. His last act was to pull the pins from his grenades, taking 5 of the monsters with him. Sun-ho is down. Minho spoke into his radio, his voice calm despite the loss. "Close the gap in the east wall. Do not let them through." Private Choi Mina ran to take Sun-ho's position. She had been teaching R'Lani children how to fight just yesterday. Now she was fighting for their lives. Her weapon overheated from constant firing, but she kept shooting until a Vex warrior broke through the defense line. The creature was huge. With metal claws and glowing red eyes, Mina's bullets bounced off its armored skin. Rifle at it and pulled out her knife. The fight lasted only seconds, but she managed to cut its throat before it killed her. "We are losing people too fast," Dr. Yang said over the radio. She was treating wounded R'Lani in the medical bunker. "The defenses cannot hold much longer." Minho looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed Vex positions all around the colony. They were being surrounded. Soon there would be no way out. "All units fall back to the inner defense line," he ordered. "Prepare to blow the outer buildings." Li Guan ran from building to building, setting explosive charges. Each explosion brought down walls and blocked streets, slowing the Vex advance. But it also made the defensive area smaller. "Commander," Elder Thyra said, "there is something you should know. My people have been keeping a secret." Even in the middle of the battle, Minho turned to look at her. "What secret?" "Our planet has special crystals deep underground. Long ago, my ancestors learned to use them as weapons. The weapon needs enormous power to work." "What kind of weapon?" "It can destroy enemies across the whole planet. Requires more energy than our machines can make." Minho looked toward the colony's fusion reactor. "Light was the most powerful energy source on the planet. How much power does it need?" "All of it, and someone must control it manually. Would kill anyone who tries." Before Minho could answer, more bad news came over the radio. Sergeant Kim Borum was down. Then Corporal Lee Junho. The Vex were learning to counter every weapon the humans used. "Sir," Han Daeho's voice was excited despite the chaos around them. I am reading energy signatures from the crystal formations. If Elder Thyra is right, we might have a chance. Minho counted his remaining soldiers. Only 4 were left alive. Himself, Li Juan Han Daeho, and Kim Sora. Against millions of Vex creatures, it was hopeless, unless they could use the Rolani weapon. Elder Thyra, how long does your weapon need to charge? 20 minutes with full power from the reactor. And someone has to stay at the reactor the whole time? Yes, the radiation will kill them in 5 minutes. Minho looked at his remaining soldiers. They were all brave people who would volunteer for the mission, but this was his decision to make. Li Juan, take everyone to protect the crystal weapon sites. Help the Rolani get it ready. Sir, what about you? I am going to the reactor. Minho checked his sidearm and picked up extra ammunition. Give me 20 minutes, no matter what happens. Do not let the Vex stop that weapon from charging, Commander. Elder Thyra said softly. You will die. I know. Minho looked at the tactical display one more time. The Vex were breaking through the inner defenses. But 15,000 people will live. That is a good trade. He started running toward the reactor building as explosions echoed all around him. The reactor building was filled with the sound of alarms and flashing red lights. Minho ran through the corridors as Vex creatures smashed through windows behind him. Their claws scraped against the metal floors, making horrible screeching sounds. He reached the reactor control room and slammed the heavy door shut. The room was filled with computer screens and control panels. In the center was a thick glass window that looked down into the reactor core. The bright blue light hurt his eyes, but he could see the massive fusion reactor that powered the entire colony. Manual override sequence starting, he said into his radio. I need 20 minutes, Commander. We are setting up the crystal weapon now, came Li Guan's voice through the static. The Rolani are working as fast as they can. Minho sat down at the main control panel and began typing commands. The computer asked for his authorization codes. Then it warned him about radiation danger. He ignored the warnings and continued working. Through the security cameras, he could watch the battle outside. His remaining soldiers were fighting desperately to protect the Rolani weapon sites. Li Guan threw grenades at a group of Vex warriors, then ran to a new position. Daeho was helping Rolani. Technicians connect crystal formations to power cables. The radiation meter on the wall began to climb. Yellow, then orange. Soon it would be red, and then he would start to die. Elder Thyra, how much longer? He asked over the radio. 15 more minutes, Commander. The crystals are charging slowly. 15 minutes. Minho looked at his hands. They were already starting to shake a little. The radiation was getting into his body, damaging his cells. He had maybe 10 minutes before he became too sick to work. On the security screen, he watched Kim Sora fall. She was covering a group of young Rolani who were running to safety when 3 Vex flyers came down from above. She shot 2 of them, but the third one got her. Her last words over the radio were, "Keep going. Do not stop for me." And now only 3 humans were left alive on the planet. The Vex had figured out where the reactor was, through the thick walls. Minho could hear them trying to break in. Her claws and teeth scraped against the metal doors. They knew someone important was inside. 10 minutes left, Elder Thyra reported. But Commander, there are Vex creatures all around the reactor building. It will break in soon. Minho looked at the emergency controls. There was a red button that would make the reactor explode if he pushed it. If the Vex broke through and stopped him from finishing the power transfer, he could at least deny them the colony's resources. His vision was getting blurry. The radiation sickness was working fast. His hands felt heavy, but he kept them moving across the control panel. The power levels climbed slowly toward the amount needed for the crystal weapon. Han Daeho's status report, he called out. Sir, I am connecting the last power cable now. Li Guan is holding off the Vex, but there are so many of them. Do! The security cameras, Minho watched his demolitions expert make her final stand. She had run out of ammunition and was using her combat knife against creatures twice her size. She moved like a dancer, cutting and stabbing, but there were too many enemies. "Juan, get out of there," he shouted. "Cannot do that, sir," she replied, breathing hard. "If I leave, they will reach the crystal array. You just keep that power coming." Minho watched her fight until the end. Sergeant Li Guan, who had served with him for 5 years, who made jokes during the dangerous missions, who never complained about anything. She fell defending a crystal formation that glowed brighter as more power flowed into it. Now only Handeho was left to help the Rolani finish their weapon. 5 minutes, Commander." Elder Thyra's voice was urgent. "We are almost ready." The reactor room door began to bend inward. The Vex had brought their biggest warriors to break through. Minho could see their claws pushing through the metal. Had maybe 2 minutes before they got inside. His hands were shaking badly now. But he managed to push the power output to maximum. The reactor core glowed brighter and brighter. Warning messages flashed on every screen, but he ignored them all. For minutes, he whispered to himself, just for more minutes. The door exploded inward. 3 massive Vex warriors rushed into the room, their red eyes focused on him. Behind them came smaller creatures that looked like metal spiders. Minho drew his sidearm and fired at the first warrior. The bullets barely slowed it down. He kept shooting as it charged toward him, its claws reaching for his throat. 3 minutes! Elder Thyra shouted over the radio. "Hold on, Commander!" The Vex warrior's claws slashed across Minho's chest, but he managed to roll away from the control panel. He had to keep the power flowing for 3 more minutes. 3 minutes might as well be 3 hours. He pulled out his last grenade and smiled at the creatures surrounding him. "You want to stop me?" he said to them. "Try harder." The explosion shook the entire building, but the reactor kept running. The power kept flowing to the crystal weapon that would save 15,000 innocent lives. The explosion in the reactor room threw Minho against the wall, but he was still alive. The Vex warriors lay scattered around him, their metal bodies torn apart by the grenade blast. But he could hear more of them coming through the broken door. Blood ran down his face and his chest hurt badly from the claws. But his hands still worked. He crawled back to the control panel and checked the power levels. "Almost there. Just 2 more minutes. Commander." "The crystals are glowing bright blue. Whatever you are doing, keep doing." Through the security cameras, Minho could see the crystal formations all around the colony. They were sticking up from the ground like giant blue needles, and they were getting brighter and brighter. The Rolani people were standing around. Their faces filled with hope for the first time in days. More Vex creatures poured into the reactor room. These were smaller ones, but they moved fast, like angry insects. Minho shot at them with his pistol, but there were too many. They jumped at him from all directions. 1 minute. Elder Thyra shouted over the radio. 1 minute and the weapon. We'll be ready. A Vex creature landed on Minho's back and its claws dug into his shoulders, grabbed it and threw it into the reactor controls, but more kept coming. His vision was getting dark from the radiation sickness and blood loss. Then the planet began to shake. Deep underground, the crystal formations that the Rolani had hidden for thousands of years came to life. They'd been waiting all this time for enough power to activate. Now, with the full energy of the fusion reactor flowing through them, they began to do what they were made to do. Spears of pure blue energy shot up from the ground all across the planet. They moved faster than lightning, piercing through the Vex swarm like needles through cloth. Each crystal spear found its target perfectly, guided by the planet's natural magnetic field. The Vex creatures in the reactor room stopped attacking. Minho began to scream. It was a horrible sound, like metal being torn apart. Their red eyes flickered and went dark. One by one, they collapsed to the floor. Through the security cameras, Minho watched the same thing happen everywhere. Flying Vex fell from the sky like rain. Ground forces stopped moving and toppled over. Even the huge command creatures that had been directing the attack fell silent. "It is working." Elder Thyra's voice was filled with joy. "The weapon is destroying them all." Minho smiled and leaned back against the control panel. The radiation meter on the wall was flashing red, warning that he had received a deadly dose. His body was shutting down, but he had done it. The power transfer was complete. The Rolani weapon was destroying the entire Vex swarm. Hondejo came running into the reactor room, followed by several Relani technicians. "Commander, you did it. The Vex are all dead." "Good," Minho whispered. His voice was very weak now. "How many Relani survived?" "All of them, sir." "All 15,000. They are safe." Minho closed his eyes and thought about his soldiers. Park Sun-ho, who had died defending the east wall. Choi Mina, who had fought with just a knife when her rifle broke. Kim Sora, who had covered the retreat of Relani children. Lee Juan, who had made jokes even in the worst situations. They had all given their lives so that others could live. "Commander, stay awake," Dr. Yang said, kneeling beside him. She had come up from the medical bunker as soon as the fighting stopped. "I can treat the radiation sickness." "No," Minho said softly. "It is too late for that. But doctor, make sure you write down what happened here. People should know what my soldiers did." Elder Thyra entered the reactor room, her blue face wet with tears. "Commander Park Minho, my people will never forget what you have done. You saved us all. Not just me," Minho said, "all of us. We did it together." He looked through the reactor window at the bright blue core that had powered their victory. "Elder Thyra, promise me something. Teach your children to be strong. The universe is dangerous, and peaceful people need to know how to fight when they must. I promise," she said. "We will never be helpless again." Minho smiled one last time. Through the broken walls, he could see the Relani people coming out of their bunkers. Children ran to their parents. Families hugged each other and cried. With relief, they were alive because 13 humans had refused to abandon them. 5 years later, Captain Kim Sora stood in the center of New Thyra City, looking up at a tall monument made of blue crystal. 13 names were carved into it in both human writing and Relani symbols. Commander Park Minho's name was at the top. "They changed everything," Elder Thyra said, standing beside her. She was older now, and she wore the uniform of a military commander. "Before your people came, we knew only peace. We know that sometimes peace must be defended with war." Kim Sora nodded. The Relani had built a strong military force that protected not just their own world, but other planets in the sector. They had learned Commander Minho's most important lesson: never abandon those who cannot defend themselves. "What would the commander think of what you have become?" Sora asked. Elder Thyra smiled. "I think he would be proud. We're still peaceful people, but now we are strong too. That is the gift humans left behind."